I'm 63 years old, and I need to tell you something that sounds absolutely ridiculous when you say it out loud. But I promise it's the complete and honest truth. About 4 months ago, I started rubbing this one specific oil on my face every single night before bed. And within just a few weeks, people at my yoga studio, at the grocery store, even at a high school reunion I attended where I ran into former students and colleagues, they started asking me if I had gotten work done. They were asking if I'd had a facelift, Botox, some kind of procedure. And here I was just putting this golden orange oil on my face for a few minutes before I went to sleep. I had to laugh because the irony wasn't lost on me. I spent 28 years as a principal telling students and staff that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most powerful ones. And now at 63, I'm learning that lesson all over again when it comes to my skin. Now, before we go any further, I want you to understand that I'm not here to sell you anything or to make you believe in some miracle cure that doesn't exist. What I am here to tell you is the actual science behind something that sounds like folklore, but is backed by real clinical research. When I was in my late 50s and early 60s, I started noticing that my skin was doing exactly what everyone said it would do at this age. It was getting dull, and not just a little dull, but like someone had taken a soft filter and put it over my entire face. The deep lines around my mouth became really pronounced, especially those vertical lines that run from the corners of your mouth down toward your jaw. And my forehead had these horizontal lines that would deepen more and more as the day went on, as if my skin was somehow recording every single expression I made throughout the day and refusing to bounce back anymore. I was genuinely considering having some kind of cosmetic procedure done. I wasn't against it on principle, but I wanted to explore every other option first, which is where this story really begins. A friend of mine, someone I had known since my yoga teacher training, recommended that I try rosehip seed oil. Now, when she said it, I'll be honest with you. My first thought was that this sounded like something you'd read on a wellness blog written by someone who was trying to sell you 30 different products that you didn't need. But she was the kind of person whose opinion I trusted because she had been studying natural skincare ingredients for years, and more importantly, I could see the results on her own face. So I did what any reasonable person does when they're curious about something but skeptical. I looked into the science, and what I found completely changed my perspective on what anti-aging skincare could actually be. Rosehip seed oil, which comes from the seeds of the Rosa canina plant, contains something called trans-retinoic acid, which is absolutely fascinating because it's the exact same active ingredient that you would get if you went to a dermatologist and got a prescription for tretinoin, also called Retin-A. Now, the difference is that when you get a tretinoin prescription, it's a synthesized pharmaceutical version that can sometimes be quite irritating, especially when you're first starting to use it. But when it comes naturally in rosehip seed oil, it's gentler and your skin can often tolerate it better because it's coming to you in a whole plant matrix that includes other supportive compounds. Beyond just the retinoic acid, rosehip seed oil is also loaded with vitamin C, which is crucial for collagen synthesis and gives your skin that brightening effect that people notice when they see you in person. And it contains essential fatty acids, omega-3, omega-6, and omega-9, that actually mirror the composition of your skin's natural sebum, which means your skin recognizes it and absorbs it properly instead of treating it like a foreign substance. There's also beta-carotene in rosehip oil, which converts to vitamin A in your body and provides additional antioxidant protection at the cellular level. What makes rosehip seed oil completely unique is that it's the only plant-based oil in the world that naturally contains tretinoin. You cannot get this from argan oil, you cannot get it from marula oil, you cannot get it from any other luxury oil on the market. That's a fundamental biochemical fact. And once I learned that, everything else clicked into place for me because I started to understand why this simple oil could potentially do something that thousands of expensive serums and creams had failed to do for my skin. The clinical evidence sealed the deal for me. There was a study published in Clinical Interventions in Aging that specifically looked at rosehip powder used over an 8-week period in a group of mature women, and they measured wrinkles, skin moisture, and skin elasticity using actual scientific instruments, not just people's opinions. And they found significant improvements across all three markers. When your skin has better moisture content, that alone makes wrinkles look less pronounced because dehydrated skin looks much older and more crepey than skin that's properly hydrated. But there was also a separate study published in the Journal of Cosmetic Dermatology that focused specifically on crow's feet, those fine lines that form at the outer corners of your eyes. And rosehip oil significantly improved both the appearance of crow's feet and overall skin moisture levels. Now, crow's feet are one of those things that people notice immediately when they look at your face because they're right there at eye level. And if you can soften those, suddenly your entire face looks fresher and younger, which is exactly what I experienced. The protocol itself is beautifully simple, which is actually one of the reasons I think it works so well. You're not adding a bunch of different products to your skincare routine or waiting for some complicated application process to finish before you go to bed. You take 3 to 4 drops of cold-pressed rosehip seed oil, and I'm going to emphasize the cold-pressed part because that's actually crucial. And you apply it to clean, damp skin at night, right after you've cleansed your face. The dampness is important because it helps the oil penetrate more effectively into your skin. You massage it in using upward motions for about 60 seconds, and then you just go to bed and let it work while you sleep. Some people like to add just 1 single drop of frankincense essential oil to the rosehip oil because frankincense is known to boost collagen production and provide additional anti-aging benefits. And the combination of the two oils is really quite lovely. If you do add frankincense, make sure you're using a high-quality, therapeutic-grade frankincense essential oil because you want to make sure you're using something that's actually been tested and verified for purity. For me personally, the results started becoming visible around the 4-week mark. That dull, tired look that had been sitting on my face for years just started to shift. My skin looked brighter, more luminous, like there was light coming from underneath it again instead of light just bouncing off the surface. By week 8, the deeper lines, especially the ones around my mouth, were noticeably softer. People weren't remarking on it yet, but I could see it when I looked in the mirror, and more importantly, I could feel it in the texture and quality of my skin. By week 12, which is just 3 months of consistent nightly application, something shifted in how other people were perceiving me. I went to a reunion of former high school staff and students, and multiple people asked me if I'd had work done. When I told them it was just an oil I was using at night, nobody believed me at first, which was both funny and also deeply validating because it meant the changes were visible and real enough that people assumed they must have come from professional cosmetic intervention. Now I want to dive into some of the deeper science here because understanding this will help you understand why rosehip oil works when so many other expensive products fail. One of the reasons that a lot of high-end serums and skincare products don't actually deliver the results they promise is that the molecules in those serums are often too large to penetrate the skin barrier effectively. Your skin is designed to keep things out. That's its job. It's a protective organ. And the lipid layers in your skin are only permeable to molecules of a certain size. When companies formulate these expensive serums, they're often optimizing for texture and feel and brand appeal more than they're optimizing for actual penetration and efficacy. Rosehip seed oil, on the other hand, has a fatty acid composition that almost perfectly matches your skin's natural sebum, which means your skin sees it as a messenger that belongs there, and it allows it through the barrier. This is a beautiful example of how marketing and actual science often don't align in the skincare industry. The collagen situation is something that every woman over 50 needs to understand because it's the foundation of skin aging. Starting at age 30, your body begins to produce approximately 1% less collagen every single year. By the time you're 60, you've lost about 30% of the collagen you had at 30, and that number keeps declining. That's why your skin looks different, feels different, has less firmness and elasticity. Now, here's the part that blew my mind when I learned it. Vitamin A and vitamin A derivatives like retinoic acid are the only compounds that have been clinically proven to actually stimulate new collagen synthesis in skin cells. Everything else, peptides, hyaluronic acid, vitamin C, resveratrol, those are wonderful and they have their own benefits. But none of them actually tell your fibroblasts, the cells that produce collagen, to make more collagen. Only vitamin A does that. And that's exactly what rosehip oil is delivering to your skin every single night when you apply it. The quality markers for rosehip seed oil are really important if you want to get actual results instead of just going through the motions. When you buy rosehip seed oil, it should be a deep golden orange color, not clear or pale yellow. If it's clear or very pale, that's a sign that it's been either diluted or processed with heat, which destroys the vitamin A content and basically renders it much less effective. You want to buy cold-pressed rosehip seed oil from a reputable brand that's been independently tested. The cold pressing process means the oil was extracted using pressure and friction without added heat, which preserves all the delicate active compounds that make it work. Once you have it at home, you need to be a little bit protective of it, because vitamin A is sensitive to light and air. You should keep it in a dark glass bottle, and after you open it, you should store it in the refrigerator. Yes, the refrigerator. It will stay fresh longer, and the cooler temperature actually helps preserve the vitamin A content. If you leave your rosehip oil on a shelf in your bathroom where it's exposed to light and heat and air every single day, you're essentially watching it oxidize and lose potency. There are some real considerations and cautions you need to be aware of when you start using any product that contains vitamin A or retinoic acid. And these are important because they affect how your skin is going to respond. Vitamin A increases your skin's sensitivity to the sun, which means you absolutely must use a broad-spectrum SPF 30 or higher during the day if you're using rosehip oil at night. This is non-negotiable. You can get the most beautiful skin in the world from retinoids, but if you don't protect it from the sun, you're going to damage all that new skin you're building, and you'll end up with sun damage, uneven pigmentation, and potentially skin cancer. So every single morning, after you wake up and wash your face, you need to apply sunscreen before you go outside or sit near a window. Another thing to be aware of is that some people experience slight irritation when they first start using a retinoid, even a gentle one like the natural retinoic acid in rosehip oil. Before you commit to using it on your entire face every night, I would recommend doing a patch test. Pick a small area, maybe on your jawline or near your ear, and apply the oil there for 3 or 4 nights to see how your skin responds. If you experience redness, irritation, or sensitivity, you might need to adjust the frequency, perhaps using it 3 nights a week instead of every night, or diluting it with a carrier oil like jojoba oil. Everyone's skin is different, and what works beautifully for one person might need some tweaking for another. I want to also address something that I think is really important about expectations and realistic timelines. When I first started using rosehip oil, I didn't expect to see results in 4 weeks. The research I'd read suggested 8 to 12 weeks as a more realistic timeline. And honestly, the fact that I started seeing changes at 4 weeks was better than I anticipated. But I want to be really clear with you. This is not a magic wand. You're not going to apply it for 2 weeks and look 15 years younger. What you will do over the course of 8 to 12 weeks of consistent use is support your body's natural collagen production, deliver vitamin A to your skin cells, improve your skin's hydration and moisture barrier, and allow your skin to do what it's designed to do when you give it the right tools. Younger looking skin is the result of your skin being healthier, and this oil makes your skin healthier at a cellular level. One more thing I want to touch on before we wrap up, and this ties into something I've learned through both my health coaching certification and my yoga practice. Your skin is reflecting what's happening inside your body just as much as it's reflecting what you're putting on the outside. Rosehip oil is wonderful, and I genuinely believe in its anti-aging benefits. But it works best when you're also drinking enough water, when you're sleeping well, when you're managing your stress, and when you're eating foods that support collagen production, like bone broth, fatty fish, citrus fruits, and berries. Skincare is never just about skincare. It's about how you're living your whole life. That said, if you're living reasonably well and taking care of yourself, adding rosehip oil to your nighttime routine is genuinely one of the most effective and least expensive things you can do to support your skin at this stage of your life. I'm going to leave you with one final thought and a little teaser for what we're talking about next time. After I had such success with rosehip oil and started diving deeper into understanding how our bodies change after 60, I became obsessed with understanding blood sugar regulation and how our morning habits either set us up for steady energy all day or for the energy crashes and cravings that make us feel older than we are. There's this one thing I started doing every single morning, something so simple that most people overlook it completely, and it changed my energy levels, my mental clarity, and even further improved my skin quality in ways I didn't expect. We're going to talk about that next, and I promise it's going to reframe how you think about your morning routine. But for now, tonight, get yourself a bottle of cold-pressed rosehip seed oil in a dark glass bottle, do a patch test, and start thinking about how you want your skin to look 3 months from now. Because I promise you, the version of you that exists 90 days from now, if you commit to this consistently, is going to thank you.